Welcome to Followers of the Way. We're really excited to have you with us today and to look at our very first session where we're going to be looking at why we use the name even Followers of the Way. Jesus said to his disciples in John 14:6, when they asked him, "How do we know the way to go?" He said to them, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." One of the disciples turned to him and said, "But Lord, how can we know this?" And I think that's a question that we often ask. Lord, how can we really know the way? You see, in this world there are so many other ways that it's very difficult for us to really know which way to go. However, unlike other ways, the Christian faith describes the way as a person. It's not a concept, not a series of beliefs, or even a way of living, but the way is a person, the person of Jesus Christ. You see, when we get to know the person, that's when we get to understand the way that we should walk. You see, knowing Jesus is so different to any other way. Jesus said to his disciples one time when he was talking to them about how to know the way to go, he said to them that he was the good shepherd and used an analogy, an illustration that they would be familiar with sheep and shepherds. He said, "I am the good shepherd. My sheep follow me and they hear my voice." So he said that so that they would specifically know that it was a person that they were following and not just a path. You see, God is outside of time. He knows the start from the end. If you look at a 2D drawing, you see a line or a series of pictures together, and that's a lot like how God sees our 3D world. We think of birth and death and all the stuff that goes in between because we think according to our experience. But like when we look at a 2D drawing, God looks at us and sees the whole picture at once, just like we do when we see the drawing. So God knew everything about you before you were born because he's outside of time. See, the Bible tells us he is the creator of everything. It says in John 1 that in the beginning there was God. If you read John 1, you can see that God created everything, and that includes time. So God knows everything that's going to happen to your life in the future, everything that's already happened, because he sees it all right now. Now, how do we know that's true? Well, we're going to watch a short video on the book of Isaiah and look specifically at Isaiah 53. You see, 700 years before Jesus came to earth, God spoke to the prophet Isaiah and told him exactly what was going to happen to Jesus, and he wrote it down 700 years before it happened. And when Jesus came and lived his life, he fulfilled it in a most incredible way. Now that is just one example of how God is outside of time. There are so many more that we could look at, but this is just one. Let's take a look at this incredible video right now.
He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering, yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. Yet who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was punished. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. After he has suffered, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he will bear their iniquities. Therefore I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and was numbered with the transgressors. For he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
What an amazing video. I don't know about you, but when I watch something like that, it gives me a lot of courage that God actually bothers about my life. You see, he says that he knows me by name. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11, God says these words. He says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. Plans for good and not for evil. Plans to prosper you and to give you a future and a hope." Well, why can God say that? Because he already knows the future that he has for you. And as we say yes to him and trust him with the way that we should go, he will lead us and guide us in that way. Just like Jesus using the illustration of the shepherd and the sheep, we can follow the way, the person, and begin to experience all the good things that God has for our lives. I hope you've enjoyed today, and I hope it's made you think. If you want to write to us or email us, please go to www.discover discover-jesus.tv or www.hoptlc.org.uk, and you'll find all of the contact details on there that you need. We hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.